Hi, this is TK Kuegler. I'm with a firm called Wasabi Ventures, but really I'm here today to talk about EFNH and the AMP Awards. And historically, what we've done is run pitch camps and teach nonprofits the basics of how to pitch. And what we're doing this year is we are doing a video recording for nonprofits so that they can watch them on their own time, learn on their own time, and then come to the pitch camps even better prepared so that we can get more benefit out of the day of the pitch camp. So that's what I'm here today. So I'm going to spend some time with you and talk really about what makes a great pitch. So I always like to start and give a little data whenever you're going into learning anything. I think it's important that you understand who's talking to you and why you should care. And so I'm, in my professional life, I am a professional listening to pitch person. For the last 20 years of my life, I have probably spent on an average week listening to over 50 pitches from startups and entrepreneurs pitching their idea, pitching their company. And if you listen to that many pitches for that many years, you get to get a sense of what works and doesn't work. And I'm here to kind of share some of what I think works and doesn't work. And I've really boiled this down to you into three key elements. And I call these the three questions you have to answer if you're going to get funding. But I want you to not be distracted by the funding concept, because learning to pitch is the most important thing you can do as a nonprofit. Now you might say, no, I'm not sure that's true. It's to serve my cause. If you can't communicate to donors, employees, volunteers, and to the audience that you're trying to help themselves, if you can't do that effectively, you can't complete your mission. And pitching is doing exactly that. Take the concept of asking for money out of pitching, because we're going to learn today that pitching is nothing more than communicating your message in an effective way. So what are these three questions? The three questions you have to answer. What makes your cause amazingly attractive? What makes your organization a killer app? And why is your team uniquely qualified to work on the cause that you're working on? So what makes a cause attractive? First of all, you have to realize everyone thinks their cause is important. It's important to you. Guess what? I don't care. It's not important to me. Your job is to make that important to me. So you have to understand that your audience, no matter who that is, doesn't care about your cause as much as you do. Effective pitching is you communicating that it's important to you and why it should be important to them. So what makes it attractive? Size of problem. People love hearing that they're solving something that affects lots of people. The bigger your cause, the more impact from a sheer number standpoint, the more important your cause is. Doesn't mean that it's not important to people if you're only affecting 12 people. I get that. But it is hard to get people who are not in those dozen people to be motivated when you say, I'm solving a problem that helps a dozen people. Sounds a lot different when you can say, I'm solving something that's going to solve for 10,000 people. Just think about those numbers for a second. So size of the problem is important, number of people impacted. Are what you're building a plausible solution? I had a nonprofit a few years ago that tried to tell me their story, how they were going to solve 100% of the literacy problem in New Hampshire. Well, that's great. But I'm not buying that your solution is going to be plausible. If your solution is so crazy sometimes, it's hard to make it sound plausible. So you have to make it into a bite size so that people can find it plausible. It's also important if you can have a successful analogous cause or group that you can say, we're the United Way of this. Because everyone knows what the United Way does. We're the Boys and Girls Club of this segment or this problem. Pick things that people understand and use that as an example. Pick successful nonprofit organizations that do something in another with another problem, and you say you're solving a problem that's different, but very similar in like scope or methodology. Is your nonprofit a killer app? So I come from the software world, I come from the startup world, so everybody likes to talk about apps. I want you to ignore the word app. I use that just to get your attention here. All I want you to think about is that just like an app that you might buy for your phone, what you're doing can be compressed down, modularized, so that people can say, oh, I want to be a part of that. So that's when I use the word app, that's what I want you to think about. And so are you a killer app? Are what you're solving, is it a major pain point? This is one that a lot of nonprofits struggle with, is that are you a nice to have nonprofit or are you a have to have nonprofit? Let me give you an example. If you are solving hunger in southern New Hampshire and you're attacking that problem, that's a lot different than saying that you're solving a great after-school program for middle and upper income families. Both of them can be nonprofits, right? But one is a vitamin and one is an aspirin. So people gravitate to the aspirins of the world. And when you hear vitamins, you start to say, I don't know if that's a nonprofit that I want to dedicate my energy to. Once again, it's not a judgment call if a nonprofit is good or bad. It's not a good or bad measurement. It's just how you're going to communicate that is important. So if you are solving a cause that feels more like a vitamin and less like an aspirin, you have to understand that when you communicate. You can't gravitate to the same way and put up a picture of when you're talking and put up a picture of a child that's hungry. That hits heartstrings. You use that if you're doing an aspirin type of problem. If you're more on the vitamin side, you got to approach your pitch a little different. Is your problem, is your cause viral? And I'm not talking from a medical standpoint. I'm talking about, will people want to talk about what you're doing to strangers? Will they want to say, I met this person today, they're working on this, and I think it's the greatest thing in the world that they're working on this, and I want to help them. And you should want to help them too. That's viral. When an app goes viral in the software world, that's because friends tell friends that they should go get that app. Everybody wants to play with words with friends, so that's viral, Same thing should be with your nonprofit. Is it viral? Do people want to talk about it? I always tell people when I hear a pitch from a startup, if I don't tell people that I heard that pitch and I talk about that company's probably dead to me. Because if it's not interesting enough that I want to tell strangers that I heard it today, I probably don't care. Once again, going back to that aspirin vitamin thing, is this an indulgence or is this a have to have? Once again, that's also a judgment call, remember. Everybody's got their own vision of what has to have and isn't. Or is it just plain magic? What you do, we go into a 4th grade classroom and within 6 months, their reading level goes from here to there. Magic, Well, that's great, use that as your advantage if you've got that kind of statistics. So let's talk about your unique qualifications. Things that are important about your nonprofit is, do you have relevant, successful experience? I spent 20 years as a elementary school teacher. And now I have this nonprofit that works in the elementary classroom and does X. Well, that's relevant experience. If I go in and say, I was a used car salesman, and now I think I want to fix elementary education, it doesn't resonate, right? So, and you got to understand that when you're doing your pitch. If you have those unique qualifications, make sure you explain to people, I've been there, I've done that, that's why you want to bet with me. Because I already know what needs to be done because I've been doing it for so long and I've lived it. And we've all seen these too, right? We've seen these stories where I used to be, I'm going to go back to the homeless thing for a second. I was homeless, I ran into this organization, they helped me, and now I go back and I work there. Well, that's a pretty powerful story to say that you took somebody who was homeless and now put them on a path for a much better situation in their life. That's a unique qualification. Things that don't matter in the unique qualification things are your academic degrees. People generally don't get excited because you went to school XYZ. You might be excited, and the people that went to that school might be excited, but that doesn't make you uniquely qualified to work on the problem that your cause. I don't care that you went to Harvard. And in many ways, that might be a negative if you went to Harvard, in my opinion. So understand that academic degrees may not be. Unrelated prior experience. Once again, I was a used car salesman. I think I'm gonna definitely qualify to solve the literacy problem in Manchester. Doesn't make any sense, right? So, things that really bother me. It really bothers me, and these are actual quotes that I've lived with. When a cause comes in and says, we're the most important cause in the whole world. Well, no, you're not. As a guy who writes checks all the time, I can tell you every single cause thinks you are. So don't come in and don't lead with that you're the most important cause. You're the most important cause to you, not me. So it really drives me crazy when people think their cause is more important. Does that mean you're diminishing everybody else's cause? Think about that for a second. That's what you're really saying. All the other things you give to money to, or time, or energy, or resources, or thoughts to, are unimportant compared to mine. Well, it just doesn't sound very good. And that's when your cause is the most important, everybody else is less important. It's the subtlety of a pitch that's very important. No one has ever done blank. Everybody has tried to do something here. If you think you're doing something that's never been done before, I'm going to tell you you're lying to yourself and to me. Everything has been tried before. Everything. Maybe not the way you're doing it, but don't tell me it's never been done before. I promise you, if you look back in the annals of history, everything has been tried. We're going to have a partnership with large company or large organization X next year. Now, you might say, I don't understand that one. Well, I hear that one all the time because people always sell the future. They're this close to a partnership with someone that's going to transform their nonprofit or their business. Well, when you have that and it's in writing and you're actually doing it, tell me about it. Those types of relationships always take longer than you think they're going to take to make them real, make them executable, and start to show results. Don't sell me the future so far in forward that I don't believe you. So, just my pet peeves. Stuff that I didn't mention that's important. Are there other causes in your geographic space doing the exact same things you're doing? It's important to know that. Know what they're doing. If there are other people trying to solve the exact same problem, it's not necessarily a competition thing, even though in the business world we would call it that. It's important to know who else is doing that and how they're doing it and what makes you different or better, or maybe there's synergies that you can get more bang for your buck if two of you are working together. You got to have a go-to-market plan. I know that sounds businessy, but what I really mean there is, yeah, so if you're going to go solve this issue, how are you going to actually get into the cause and actually do something? That's a go-to-market in the nonprofit world. Lots of people talk at the very high level, we're going to do this, this, and this, but you got to have a way to go to market and do that. Any past experiences that you've had that have been very effective are important, but once again, if you can't answer the 3 questions, nothing else matters. Main key points that I want you to take away. Understand that pitching is selling, and selling is not a bad word. I have a banner that I keep it in my office at my house that says, nothing happens till somebody sells something. And it's the facts. You gotta sell what you're doing. I know it sounds like a negative, it's actually a positive. Selling is a positive thing because it's you communicating what you're trying to do to people who otherwise wouldn't listen. Selling is always personal. It's very important that I understand what moves you, what moves you, and guess what? What gets you excited isn't what's going to get you excited. And if I'm pitching, I need to know what are the causes that you actually give money to today? Why do you give to them? Is there something in your personal life that makes you give to those causes? That lets me cater my story to what moves you. Are you a person that wants to give completely anonymously? That's important to know. Are you a person that needs to be in big red lights, in the front door that says, yes, TK gave the money because his ego needs to tell everybody that? Well, you need to know that when you're talking to the person. It's all personal. Your cause is special to you, not to me. So you've got to get that message to me. And the last and most important thing, every single moment of your day is a pitchable moment. Every moment of your day is pitchable. When you wake up in the morning, you're pitching your family that this is what we should be spending our time on. You go to the office, you go to your place of work, your employees, your volunteers, they're looking to you as a leader to get pitched to. Why should I be here? They could be somewhere else working on something else. They need to get pitched to. You run into a stranger at a grocery store, that's your chance to tell them, this is what I do. And this is why it's important. Every moment is a pitchable moment. Thanks for coming. I hope you found it entertaining.